This is the hard, cold truth. We're sitting at 80 and we got to get to 53. And it's a bitch, man. And it is the worst part of this fucking job. The blood, the sweat, the tears, the devotion, everything that you've put into it, you got my respect. You got all my respect. I'd do anything I could for you, man. And I wish I could fucking keep you. We all do. But it's just not how it works.
From the Chris Wesseling Podcast Studio, it's the Hard Knocks Podcast, presented by Around the NFL. I'm Dan Hanzus. I'm joined in studio by the legendary, the tiny box to my tugboat,
Still not
Colleen
sure
Wolfe.
about that. Hello.
Well,
what's up?
You know, we have one more episode after today,
Right.
so I could pivot off that.
Okay. Like it.
I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about episode 4 of Hard Knocks, but I also feel like we kind of went through, you feel that nervous energy pulsating through Lions, their facility, coming through your screen watching it. It's gotten tense now.
Yes.
Exactly.
This doesn't get any better than this, my God.
Well,
I mean, Dan, I wouldn't say that would be
that's a pivot from what you were just saying, Dan. I mean, the anxiety, it's kind of palpable this time of year. It feels like a lot of the coaches are in their feelings. People are emotional. You know, it's a roller coaster, truly.
Yeah. See, people are emotional. I think that was the big takeaway of this episode to me, that Dan Campbell, and we've been talking about Campbell in a positive light, you know, just like so many other people throughout this series.
Not good enough.
I think he's great.
Yeah.
Not good enough.
I think Dan Campbell
Is enough.
And I think you see how much he cares. And you know, we parachute in through this show for training camp, but Dan Campbell has been, and his coaching staff have been with these players since the beginning of the offseason program in the spring, and you could tell based on what we've seen through these episodes that they've gotten to know them on a personal level. And you could say that about past Hard Knocks seasons, but I just feel like this season and this team in particular feels like a tight unit. So when it's time to say goodbye to players, it ain't easy.
It's always hard to say goodbye. I mean, Boys to Men, they have a whole song about it. But I think that
Philadelphia.
Did you know that I'm from there?
Yeah.
I think the way that this coaching staff treats and teaches the players, it's a very warm, connected type group, and you can tell that they get along, they joke, they spend so much time together that I imagine it would be difficult to say goodbye to them because of those connections and bonds that they form. And of course, all of these coaches are rooting for the players that they've spent all of this time with. So then for them to try and get every ounce out of these players and then have to cut them, that's got to be really difficult. That's not a conversation I would want to have. I've fired one person, well, 2 people in my life, and it's been terrible.
Let's talk about it.
But yeah, so it's definitely an emotional time.
Yeah, and you see it. There were moments when Dan Campbell is looking at the wall in his office, and it has all the entire roster, and that's kind of what they use to evaluate and decide who stays and who goes. And knowing how amped up he is, knowing his personality, knowing how much he cares, I kept waiting for him to ball his hand up in a fist and punch through the wall.
Bloody knuckles!
Because he's so upset and mad that he has to tell these kids, essentially, that their football dreams are over, at least with the Lions. And I thought there was a moment that stood out for me was Kalil Pimpleton. Now, we know, as people that cover the league, that Kalil Pimpleton did not make the team. But in the show, they haven't gotten to that yet. But what we did get was the third and final preseason game where Pimpleton, who's getting a good look, which means the team was still evaluating him. There's been hard knock seasons where they cover an underdog, quote unquote, and he doesn't get off the bench. And you know he's cooked because he's not even getting a chance to show that he can play. Pimpleton gets some run, drops a 4th and goal pass at the goal line that would have went for a touchdown from David Blau, and they cut to Dan Campbell on the sideline. And again, we never know, is Campbell saying this into his headset? Is he speaking to himself? Maybe a little bit of both. This is what he said after the Pimpleton drop.
Listen, all you can do is give them a chance to make a play, and either they do or they don't. At least we know now.
Oof. That's like a dad kind of when you get in trouble and is like, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. It's like, we know what you are, and that's it. And one of the things that stood out to me too about Campbell looking at his wall of cuts was when I don't think he has any nails left because he was biting his nails so hard in one of those scenes. Like, I can't imagine the anguish that he goes through. And poor Pimpleton, he had a whole scene with a magician. It was fun. They were laughing. He was learning to maybe juggle knives. We never got to that point, did we?
No, I think it was clarified that it was a bit. It was like juggler's bits.
Oh.
Like, that's juggler comedy.
Gullible Colleen is here. Thought that Pimpleton was going to be juggling knives. That's fine. But you can't drop a perfect throw like that in the end zone. So poor Pimpleton.
No, and the die's cast when the coach just says all you can do is give them the chance, and if they don't get it done, that's it. And his evaluation is over at that point, unfortunately. And then you have someone like Craig Reynolds, the running back who is on his fourth team in 4 years. We've learned one thing we didn't talk about last week was the really sad and emotional story of his big brother, who they obviously have a very close relationship. The brother is in prison for a series of crimes. They don't really get into exactly, but you see the conversation, the FaceTime conversation between them, and you see how close they are, and you see the father also in this episode, so you start to get invested in the story. The team loves Craig Reynolds. He's a gutsy type player, and there's a moment in a coaches meeting when, again, they're trying to evaluate. They got to get from 80 to 53. And I think this is really interesting how this portion of the meeting went. Let's listen in.
Now, here's the thing. As it pertains to this game, too, by the way, do we not know what Craig is?
Yes. That's why you're really not going to see him.
And we all love Craig. But we're not going to find anything else out about Craig that we don't already know. Would we be sick to our stomach if we lost him?
I wouldn't cut him.
Was that Deuce or who said that? I don't know if it was whoever it was.
Might have been Fraley.
Right. I think you're right.
The offensive line coach.
That pregnant
It was
pause.
an offensive assistant. I'm not sure.
Oh,
okay.
That's why I couldn't
Thank you,
recognize the
Justin.
voice. Okay. So the pregnant pause was cringy.
Endless.
Oh my God, it was so long. Thank God to the brave coach who finally stood up for Craig, because then everyone was like, well, I don't know what it would do to this team. And you'd have a bunch of offensive linemen coming and knocking on your door if you cut him.
I'm thinking about the team now,
Exactly.
too. Our offense, what he brings with those linemen, that relationship.
What do those guys up front think about him?
They just know Reynolds, like protection, all that stuff. They love him.
You get rid of Craig if you want to. Now, you might have some linemen coming knock on the door just to talk.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
So he is one of the most well-received, well-liked guys on the team. And those glue guys are super important. And, you were talking about, Dan, the last episode with Craig Reynolds and when he had the conversation with his brother. And that really stuck with me because his brother has been in prison since Craig was in 6th grade. So since he was 12 years old, he never saw him play. And the one line that hasn't left me was Craig saying that he's a role model still. He just shows me what not to do. And it was just seeing his dad there. I'm rooting so hard, and I'm so invested in Craig Reynolds. And also he had some funny lines in the show as well. Like there was the heartstring pulls that I also got, but then there was also a little bit of a mishap with something that shouldn't have gone somewhere.
Yeah.
I put icy out on my nuts on accident, bro. It's crazy.
So he's been through a lot.
Do you have a lot of icy hot experience in your life?
No, not too many. I've actually never used Icy Hot. I just threw my MiFi across the room. But
Oh, you've never used Icy Hot. It is not something. Well, not only have you not used Icy Hot, you don't have that part of anatomy. These are things that they stay separated. at all costs. And once you have those football we've heard the stories for years, like the offensive line was like, hey, man, it was the third quarter and we were taking the field. I had to go to the bathroom, but you know what? There was no going to a bathroom. Oh. Like, there's no getting to the icy hot situation to clean it up and remove the burn.
You got to power
icy
through.
Burn. Tough sitch.
I would imagine, like, the second worst would be maybe your eye. That would also not be a great place for icy hot to go. But Craig Reynolds, gotta love him.
I hope he makes the team. And it sounds like the offensive line is going to attack Dan Campbell. But I still got Dan Campbell if that ever happened. I think Campbell, even with one butt and three toes, could take out almost anyone that was coming for him.
Well, he's sharpening his spear during every lunch hour.
Exactly.
So, of course.
What else did we take away from this episode, Colleen? I thought there were two debuts that we've been waiting for.
Oh, my God.
We've been sharpening our blades, waiting for the moment when Jared Goff finally arrived to announce his presence as QB1 of the Detroit Lions, and at long last, it happened. Here's a little bit of what we heard from Jared Goff.
Who needs fucking coaches, you know?
No one.
No one.
Sorry for swearing.
Just holding you back.
They're sitting up there in the air conditioning, you know. What's that quote, the man in the arena?
It's the doer of the deeds.
That's right.
The credit belongs to the man who is in the arena.
That's right.
Whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood.
Not the coaches who are drinking coffee in the air conditioning right now.
Blau coming in hot with the quote.
That was good. Actually, it made me think of our late great friend who this podcast studio is named after, Chris Wessling. That's the type of stuff you'd be in casual conversation with Wes, and then he'd
Totally.
either quote scripture or some book that he had read in sixth grade. But yes, it is the men in the arena who deserve the credit. And Goff then, Liev Schreiber, who we're going to hear from kind of a little bit later, then went into the subplots that we've been talking about on this show, that there's meat on the narrative boat around Goff and how important this season is for his career. So we didn't get much more beyond that, except for, of course, a visit to meet some of the Detroit youth who are working on Jared Goff's clothing line.
He has a clothing line.
That's incredible.
Who knew? Not me.
And this is great news, I think, because he was wearing a hat from his clothing line, which was just a JG. And two things. The Gravedigger, our producer, that's merch you need to have. And even Connie Fox's husband, John Gonzalez.
Hey, we got an anniversary coming up, and I don't have a gift yet, so he's getting some JG merch.
And it's like, and when he goes, what is this? Did you get this monitor? Is this made for me? It's like, no, it's from Jared Goff's clothing line.
Yeah.
I can't get enough of this reality that we live in.
I also thought that the logos were interesting that they had. I kind of liked
the. Mean.
No, I liked the Detroit
literally
one.
Children.
The Detroit logo was nice with the city skyline, and it was sort of like a sunset. I could get down with that. I like that one. I also really enjoyed the one kid who asked if he could be his best man in his wedding because Jared Goff's engaged. Something else I didn't know. So it's like when this season started, I wasn't totally sure if Jared Goff was even on the team because he just wasn't featured at all. And now I've learned so much in one episode.
We still don't have proof that Dan Campbell has ever spoken with him. We don't have any clarity on that.
Right. You know what's interesting? The first time we did hear from Goff was in a players-only practice. So connect the dots
Interesting.
yourself. Yeah.
I like that. And then we also, of course, and this was immortalized in a quote as we watched this episode together here at NFL Network headquarters. Colleen, in a very excited state, goes, "This is the Ben Johnson episode."
Tell me it's not, because it is. He's the one guy that also we have been waiting to see, and we've seen a lot of Deuce
Who is
Staley.
Ben Johnson? Because a lot of people don't know, Colleen.
He is the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. It is not Deuce Staley. We've seen a lot of Aaron Glenn.
Deuce Staley would like you to think that he's the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions, but he is the assistant coach / running backs coach, the OC, the man behind the magic that Jared Goff produces on the field is Benny Johnson, BJ.
Yeah. And there was some high praise for BJ from a few of the players, right, Graver?
Where's Ben? He's a genius.
A genius.
Ben, you're a genius.
A genius. They love him.
We've followed this Ben Johnson journey since episode 1. This feels like a really nice level of payoff to see Ben not only get we see what he looks like.
We hear his voice.
We heard his voice. We heard someone compliment him on his job ability.
Yeah.
And we got to keep it on schedule. Way too many 3rd and longs, guys. We don't have enough calls on this sheet to convert every 3rd and long.
Likeable guy who I guess is popular with the team feels like a kind of a disservice to Ben Johnson at this point.
Do I have to ask it? Is it presumptuous to wonder if maybe we played a role in Ben getting this moment?
Don't give me that power. What?
I know, Hard Knocks people listen to the show. Maybe they were like, we hadn't thought about it, but then Dan and Colleen were talking about it.
Ooh. Or Ben Johnson was like, I demand a spot on this show. I'm the offensive coordinator. And while we're on that subject, that meeting, I think it was the opening scene of the show, it was just dripping with coaches that we had not seen yet. Like, that place was filled. And we got some Brad Holmes for the first time. He has amazing
General
eyelashes.
manager.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, that you were really taken by Brad Holmes' eyelashes in a way that I couldn't imagine anyone being taken. I'm not like a guy that notices the eyelashes as much,
no.
I
Okay.
guess.
You were just talking about the coach's jeans or dad pants the whole time. Dan needs to go shopping, apparently. And we don't know if it's athleisure. We don't know if it's denim. We don't know if it was slacks of some sort. But whatever the coaching staff was wearing on the sidelines.
If you've already watched the episode, go rewatch the preseason finale. If you haven't seen the episode yet, thank you for listening without having seen the episode yet. When you get a chance to see it, then make sure you focus in on the cut of the pants that the coaching staff is wearing against the Steelers. It's a really nice masculine cut.
It's a fine cut. I didn't focus as much on the jeans as I did the eyelashes.
Okay.
But one thing that I did notice it is. That's why we're doing the show together.
Yes.
It's great. We're the yin and the yang. During the meeting, I noticed that all of the coaches, they had like spiral notebooks or marble notebooks. It was all hard copies. Nobody was on a computer. Everyone had a pen and a paper or a pencil. That I thought was kind of an anomaly. I don't even know if we have pens and pencils in this building.
Do we want to talk about the preseason game? It was tough night. NFL Films got a lot of run out of the Week 2 win. It closed, obviously, episode 3. It opens episode 4. They're really basking in that glory. We talked about it on episode 3 recap that this team, it's in spite of all the failures that are on the wall in giant font, they're trying to shake out the pants and get that out of the again, they're trying to get that out of the pants.
But they're shaking it in the building, too.
In the building, and then it's on the wall. Listen, maybe with some things with Campbell, there's some mixed metaphors that get thrown out.
I think what they need is just some sage. Let's sage the whole place.
Right. So the preseason game against the Steelers, again, the results to most people don't really matter. But the Steelers had a big lead at halftime. They won. We did see a nice David Blau touchdown pass on a Farvian kind of flip. So that was nice. And we also learned, again, in real world, but not necessarily in Hard Knocks world, that Tim Boyle was cut. So David Blau Hard Nation, rise up. It was looking a little bleak back in episode 2. So this is nice that David Blau has a moment on this episode.
He's now had a few different moments in the preseason, which is great because he got trashed in that game from the offensive line. Nobody was protecting him. He was getting hit left and right. It was a real tough sitch for Tim Boyle. And right away, Dan Campbell was like, I've kind of seen enough at this point, so maybe we should try out some other options.
What do you think about putting Blau in with the ones? Let's do it.
Let's do it. So
I like the idea of Blau playing with the ones, but late in the game when and we love the guy. Obina is a turnstile out there, and he's a project, and we talked about this in episode 3 that obviously he's a developmental player, but I made you think, like, if you've decided, and you have because we learned that Boyle's cut after this, that Blau's your number 2 quarterback. He is your guy that's leading your offense if something happens to Jared Goff. do you really want him playing in the game at that point?
And they were down by quite a few points. The NFL Films crew did such a good job of the drama, building it up and watching the Lions do good, do bad, but like mostly score points. But then we realized that it was like maybe just a bunch of different angles of like the same, the same good plays. Because when they flashed the score, I was like, oh, right, that's right. I didn't remember this was such a blowout at one point. But yeah, I don't know why they kept Blau in for so long, especially at the end. You see him hobbling out of the stadium with a huge ice bag around his knee. He's kind of limping. He said to the trainer at one point, I felt something funny in my knee.
That you never want to hear.
Never, in your knee especially. So, that was questionable to me for sure.
All right, let's take a break, and then we'll get to the Liev Schreiber. I mean, how do you pronounce it? Because I say it different every time. How would you pronounce it?
Oh, honestly, this is one of those names that I try and never say, and I'm so glad that you have to say it, because I always say Liev Schreiber, but I don't know if that is actually true.
After the break.
Right.
I think you just have to say it as fast as you like. It's two
but it's
syllables.
Not even it's kind of a hard thing to say fast, too.
Right.
Coming up next, Liev Schreiber, quote of the week. Also, MVP. It's coming down to it now. Only one episode left now. Vector voting style. Who is the 2022 Hard Knocks MVP? We'll get into that after the break. All right, here we go. Welcome back. It's time. Now, this is a very special edition of the Liev Schreiber quote of the week because there were two. And again, this is not just all Liev's brilliance. It's the writers, the producers of NFL Films.
Amazing writing.
They
we
give
love it.
him this script, and it's gold. It's gold. So there were two great lines that Schreiber knocked out of the park. So why don't we play them both, and then we'll kind of decide which one we think should be the quote of the week. And, of course, Liev couldn't be here today.
Right.
But our great friend, Jason Zumwalt, could. So here is Jason as Liev. We have two choices. What is the quote of the week? We're about to find out.
If anyone needs the AC, it's Jared Goff. He's been hot all camp.
He's so good at this, and he's still reading these cold, right?
He does not hear the actual intonation, so that is impressive. Also, I just like anything with play that again, just because I love anything.
Smokiness to his voice?
Well, Jason obviously is killing it, but also just in general that it's about Jared Goff just kind of makes it even better. The guy has a clothing line.
If anyone needs the AC, it's Jared Goff. He's been hot all camp.
You know why I like it? Because I remember, we've been covering this league long enough, Connie. I remember being at a Thursday night game at the old Coliseum against the Vikings.
That was a Thursday night game. We were all there.
Yes, you were there too. And Jared Goff was lighting up the Vikings. And it was like, this dude, is he in the MVP conversation? And ever since then, he's been a little bit of an afterthought, sometimes the object of jokes or derision. So the idea that Liev Schreiber is saying that, it's just a nice little, nice moment for Jared.
It is. And maybe that, I think the NFL Films crew definitely did him a solid there because we haven't seen how hot he has been all summer long. So I like that they are giving us that information.
Right. They kept Jared under lock and key for most of the season. All right, but that's just one. So that one was so good on many levels. Here is the other contender for Liev Schreiber. Quote of the week.
All summer, Dan Campbell has preached the gospel of grit. Tonight, he'll see
Wait.
all summer.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Can we please keep that in? Please, I beg you.
I'm sorry. I didn't get a chance to listen to the reads. I was just going with the...
By the way, I like the fact that Liev Schreiber does that too. We've just never heard it. But Jason Zumwalt, not like the rest of us, not perfect.
Chef's kiss. So good.
I'm sorry. All right.
All summer, Dan Campbell has preached the gospel of grit. Tonight, he'll discover who sees the light and who is a true believer.
I'm sweating now. I have to take off this hoodie. Okay. Be professional. Let's go.
And that was good too.
Oh my God, hold on. All right.
What is your pick for the quote of the week?
It's not even close. It's the second one. And I don't even know what take, but all of them, please. More.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. All right.
I don't even know where we were. That was wonderful.
We have one more Liev Schreiber quote of the week coming up. And that makes me a little sad, actually, because there's only one episode left of Hard Knocks next Tuesday. Let's move on to MVP voting.
Okay.
Now, we need to, like we said, it's vector voting. So it's weighted, first, second, and third place vote. And at the end of the season, we're going to learn who is the Hard Knocks MVP. So what we're going to do here is we're going to share our votes. And then, Colleen, because you and I want to be we don't want to be affected on any level by what the standings are going into episode 5. But that doesn't mean the listeners need to be treated at the same standard. So we're going to take our headsets off and let Justin Graver, our producer, let everyone else know where the standings will be going into episode 5.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we're at.
Okay.
Third place. I'll get going this time.
Yeah, you start.
Third place, I'll go with Dan Campbell.
Okay.
I thought Dan Campbell was not the star outright of this episode, but once again, I just think that in addition to having some great lines, do we have another Campbell line we could share here?
Because I had fucking 3 what the f***s and 2 bullshits in the first drive alone. Like, I don't know what he was doing. It was bullshit, man.
In addition to that, like we said at the top of the episode, the passion he has for the job, for the sport, for these men that are his players, and you see it on his face and the struggle, how emotional he is, knowing that he needs to do a job that is very clearly the worst aspect of the gig to him.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you could tell, even though we haven't had that, and it's iconic within the realm of these type of shows, like the Hard Knocks camera shot in the office with Brad Holmes or Dan Campbell and the player that's getting let go. We'll probably see some of those next week. You know Dan Campbell's a guy that's going to have a much softer touch than, let's say, John Gruden a couple of years ago, or another coach that doesn't have that same level of empathy for his players. So not the Campbell like quote machine, but again, a guy it's so easy to root for. Dan Campbell's my third place vote.
I would disagree about him not being in the quote machine, because that quote that we just played almost put him into my third place standings alone, because I loved it so much. I would love to hear him break down more film like that. It really was something that I could relate to. So I did love that. But I went with someone who I don't believe I've given a vote to yet. So my third place MVP was actually defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, because his impassioned speech to the defense about being so terrible was so good.
Here's what I want us to understand about practice yesterday. But we cannot let our offense go out there and complete 16 of 18 passes. That is fucking bullshit. That is fucking bullshit for that to happen. I don't give a damn what nobody else thinks or how you used to practice, but we're not going to practice like that. And if you're not with that, you get the out. I'm just telling you. Because we're not practicing like that.
And honestly, listening to that, I am worried about the defense a lot, because he was talking about how the defense made the offense look so good. And is this offense really that good? That's a big question. So Aaron Glenn, he gets my vote here for third place.
I have Aaron Glenn as well.
You do?
My second place vote.
Love it.
Yeah, I think that's a long time coming. I had not had a vote for Glenn yet either. But at the same time, I've respected the way he's gone about his business, and you could tell the players respect Aaron Glenn, and I think he's a guy that has the potential to be a head coach in this league. I think this is a very big year for him, but he does have, like you're saying, a big challenge ahead of him to get this defense in a place where they could hang with the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. You know, I think it's an uphill climb, but at the same time, his steady hand and his experience in the league and his ability to communicate, I like the guy. And not just because he was a Jet, because you could just tell he is a real dude.
It's exact. Oh my God, you took the words right out of my mouth. I love how real he is, and I feel like in past episodes where he and Deuce are jawing at each other during practices or in the facility.
Deuce jawing at him and Glenn being like, "Get out of here, man."
But he's he's kind of like shooing him away, almost like a gnat. But I think that Deuce has really like chewed up a lot of that scenery and stolen the spotlight from him a few times. And this is almost for me a little bit of a makeup call too from past. Okay. Josh Adams got a lot of pop from me last week.
A lot, including you tagging the wrong Josh Adams on Instagram.
Guys, I'm so good at social. I don't know if you know this, but
how did that go?
Well, I thought I was really nailing it, that post. Really felt good about it. I was like, Colleen is doing Instagram, and here we go. So I tagged the wrong Josh Adams.
Which Josh Adams was it?
As it turns out, it was a Josh Adams that played in the league and played for not only the Philadelphia Eagles, but the New York Jets. So in a way, it kind of felt like the universe made me do it. And he definitely messaged me and was like, yeah, wrong person.
So close.
Yeah, so that was cool. That was really great. I kept it up there though, so I wasn't taking it down. It was the post was the post, so that's what you get with me. Okay, so my second place MVP was Blau. He was a warrior.
Oh,
an absolute
that's good.
Machine.
I like that.
In this episode, he knew the quote that Jared Goff was
Great
referencing.
Call. Just that alone, that he did that Wesism, sneaking into the combo and
it
just
was like
dropping
very
bombs there.
Shakespearean of him too. Like the way that he said the quote, you could just see that. I don't know. I loved it.
Again, you forget even a David Blau. You say, oh, he's kind of like a guy hanging on. He's a backup quarterback. This guy's an elite athlete.
Yeah.
He's one of the best football players like in the world. Like I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's true. And then he's dropping that quote, and she's like, oh, this man has layers.
He's an onion.
Respect that.
Blau is an onion, and he was in that game until the very end and wanted to be in that game until the very end. And for that, like, second place for me, absolutely.
Got his ass kicked in a preseason game.
That didn't matter.
Got
that
his knee rolled up on, got a late hit where he got just crushed, and he got up every time.
And threw that perfect ball that should have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
But
it looks like it worked out for Blau, because I think the qualities that we're expressing here are also the Lions see it. So Blau has another year in the league, it looks like, unless something crazy happens in the next couple of weeks. My first place, I think we're going to have the same first place this week. And in vector voting, that's huge for this individual.
Oh, boy.
Malcolm Rodriguez.
Nope.
Oh,
nope.
I got Rodrigo as my first place. I really like this guy. I like the cut of his jib, and he's not your average 6th round pick, Hard Knocks underdog story where it's like you're biting your nails. Is he gonna make the team? Rodrigo's making the team. In fact, Rodrigo might be starting at linebacker for the Lions. They just cut Jared Davis, a former first-round pick of the team, who had went and then come back, and the idea was that he was going to come back and start. They cut him loose, and people are speculating it's because Rodrigo might actually start for the Lions. So it's a very rare thing, as someone who's covered every season of the show since the dawn of time, it feels like, for a guy to be this story that you follow from the beginning of camp. And then we could turn on week 1 against the Eagles, and he might be in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
It's a great story. His family, you could tell his family's like a really close, nice, relatable group of people. And also, he loves some 80s and 70s rock. And when when he was playing in practice, and he asked some teammates about who is this artist playing, it was one of my favorite laugh lines of the show.
Who sings this? What band?
ABCD.
You gotta get that. That man said ABCD.
What is it? ABAB? What is it?
ACDC.
And football season went too long.
That's
overlap.
I ain't gonna say it on camera.
Hey.
That's his Liev Schreiber. That's ABCD. If you say it really fast, it kind of sounds like AC/DC.
I don't know who the poor guy was who was butchering it, but he tried to be like, oh, what is it, ABAB?
Oh no!
Anyway, Rodrigo gets my first place vote. I like the kid. I'm excited to see what he does, assuming he does have a role on this defense, and I like his family. So there it is.
Okay, this scene with his family, going to Pittsburgh, in the hotel to watch him play this game. It was absolutely adorable. I loved the whole thing. And when Rodrigo was talking about playing in the game, his entire face lit up when he said, I get to play Najee Harris. Like, yeah, bro. Like you're gonna play a lot of dudes like this. This is probably gonna be your life, which is so amazing. And I also even liked his logo. He had his mom was wearing a shirt that said, I don't know if it said Rodrigo or Rodriguez, but it had the mustache.
I think it was Rodrigo with the mustache.
Yes. So they know how to market themselves well, and he just has such a nice open face, if that makes sense, like inviting.
A sweet boy.
Yes.
And yet he couldn't even place on your medal stand.
No, he didn't, because my guy, who you should be able to guess this, Dan, I have such a strong connection at this point to this guy. And maybe it's because I think he's from Abington, Pennsylvania, but I could be wrong there. He is from nearby, outside of Philadelphia. We've already talked about him a bunch.
Oh, you're from Philadelphia,
episode.
Colleen?
I don't think I've ever mentioned that before. It's Craig Reynolds. We got to really get to know his dad too.
Yep.
He talked about his journey to Kutztown and how he was taking job interviews with insurance brokers and undrafted, cut multiple times. His journey and the fact that he has all of these things with his family going on, his brother who he's so close with, he can't even hang out with. His brother can't come to these games because he's in prison. And, he's faced so much adversity with just having to have the patience that he has and the confidence in himself. Those are two very difficult things. If that was me, I would probably have given up at this point and been like, I don't know if this is for me.
4 seasons, 4 NFL teams, the rejection alone, you would think, as a pro athlete, as I could speak as one because I'm pretty good at cornhole. The rejection could lead to doubting yourself. And once you do that, it's kind of over. I mean, you need to play with confidence to excel in sports. And I think that he clearly is made of the real stuff. I like Craig Reynolds.
Yeah, Dan, would we be sick to our stomachs if we lost Craig? Yes, Dan Campbell, we would be sick.
We would be with the offensive line going after Dan Campbell and
knocking
losing.
down that door.
Then losing the battle.
Right. Punching through the wall, but then we would get punched right back.
All right. Now, we have given you our votes, MVP votes. We're going to take off the headsets. And Graver, are you ready to share with the audience where we're at standings-wise?
Yes, I have done math.
Okay.
Good.
Simple addition.
All right. Well, that was not always an easy thing for some other people.
Yeah. Not for me either.
Not naming names. All right. Here we go. Headsets are off.
All right. Taking off the headset.
All right, testing. Can you hear me? Don't think so. Okay, here we go. The current standings for episode MVP based on the vector voting system. I'm going to go top to bottom. Dan Campbell comes in first right now with 65 points. Behind him, Deuce Staley, 30 points. So, pretty big gap there. I don't think Deuce can. Actually, I think Dan Campbell's just going to win this, but they don't need to know that yet. Malcolm Rodriguez, third place with 28 points. Then we got Josh Adams, the comedian, at 21 points. John Brown, former Mr. Universe, Amon-Ra St. Brown's
Justin,
dad.
are you doing your Titans podcast right now?
Yeah. I'm going through the roster cuts. John Brown, 18 points. Jamal Williams, 16 points. Tied with Aaron Glenn, also 16 points. Next, Craig Reynolds and Aiden Hutchinson.
I think we just wanted you to give who is in the running, not a complete voting breakdown.
I gave the whole breakdown.
Oh, you did? Can we put our headsets back on?
Yeah, well, I didn't get to the bottom, but that's okay.
All right, that's fine. I think people will survive. Thank you, Justin.
Man.
You're a very thorough producer.
That he is. Okay.
All right.
Well,
is it close, the top of the standings? Don't tell us. We don't want to know.
Yeah. I can't wait to see where Josh Adams nets out.
You gave him a first place vote last week, right?
Sure did.
I threw him a third place vote because it's like he deserved it, and then you came off the top turnbuckle.
Yep.
I was like, uh-oh, that could cause some issues with the vector voting system.
I like chaos. Here we are.
You're the Joker sticking his head out the police cruiser.
It's true. It's true.
All right, good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I have a couple other quick little observations.
Sign us off with a couple bangers.
Okay, so I would have liked some more description on the Gatorade that Deuce Staley had before that third preseason game. He asked if there was any water added.
Yeah, it makes me think that it was very tart.
Yes.
Too much Gatorade powder, not enough water from the hose.
Yeah, so that's what they call it.
Do they use it at the pros? Do they just hose, like in high school football, just use a hose to fill up the cooler? Or are they using purified
Not sure they
water?
do that in high school either anymore. The
I'm
music.
76 years old, so.
The music was really good in this episode. There was Motown. There was a German Coldplay type artist that almost made me cry at the end of the show. And a lot of piano. Loved that. Also, Food Truck Day. I was very intrigued by that.
I miss Food Truck Day. We used to have them a lot in our old office, and then when we moved here to Hollywood Park next to the stadium, big upgrade in the facility, but we lost the Food Truck Days, which I struggle with emotionally.
I love a food truck. It reminded me of when I was in Philly. I don't know if you know this.
Are you from Philly?
I did it again. I didn't even mean to do that. But
By the way,
hold on, this is a good story.
Can I just make
a
statement? If next year, if the Eagles are the Hard Knocks team, I'm not doing the show.
Can we cut one of the Eagles Philly references out, please?
People need to know what we go through every day with Colleen.
I hate that it is my personality. Like, it is just my full personality.
It's like, what's Colleen like? Like, you know the real Colleen. She's from Philadelphia.
And that's what my closet is, mostly Philadelphia merch. Anyway, so Carson Wentz, when he was with the Eagles, had his own food truck, and he sent it over to the practice facility after one of the practices, and it was a free lunch.
He worked in the truck?
He just sent it over, so like all the beat writers and all the reporters could have a free lunch
the truck.
on him.
It wasn't like his
He didn't
company,
pull up in it because he was on the practice
but it
field.
wasn't his product either. He literally just said, I'm going to get this food truck and send it over.
No, it was his. Like, this was his company, his whole
He took
situation.
command of that food truck.
He did. That's right. So it was a free lunch for everyone. It was a really
and he
nice
ran his
thing.
ass out of town.
And one of the beat writers actually had the audacity to complain about the options, even though it was free lunch. So
That's Philly.
I love a food truck.
Good Philly anecdote.
Get
Anything
me
else?
out of here. That's it. We gotta go.
All right. Thank you to everybody for listening. Listeners in the UK, Australia, it will land later in the week. So make sure you look out for that wherever you get your Hard Knocks content. And yes, we'll be back for one more episode next Tuesday, the finale. I believe Detroit Pizza is on the menu.
Ooh, I forgot.
Yes, and of course, we will learn who the Hard Knocks MVP is at the end of next Tuesday's episode. Thank you to everybody for listening. Until then.
Give me a scream. Even better. Even better.
Till next week.
Ah, yes. Later.